Well, the ANC will have another chance to finalise its list of candidates for the local government elections. Let's get more from Pule Mabe. He's the national spokesperson for the governing party. Pule, thanks for your time. We appreciate it. We heard the president welcoming this announcement earlier on in the evening. So just tell us about whether or not you're going to have all of those candidates on that list this time around. Everything's going to be in order, right?
Well, of course, Shahan, evening and evening to your viewers. The ANC is doing everything in its power to make sure that it conforms and complies with the timetable that will be set out by the IEC in compliance with the ruling by the Constitutional Court. Shahan, not all of us are constitutional electoral experts of electoral laws, but it follows that a timetable guiding the writing of examinations, even at schools, would, in the normal course, be guided by the announcement made by the relevant Minister of Education that exams are going to be written. The court had set aside the initial proclamation of the elections. So as a consequence of the court setting aside that kind of a decision, it then follows that all other things that would have had to do with elections would then have to be undertaken in the manner that the IEC will have explained. I mean, we should all of us, even those of us that might have had an opportunity to serve the Independent Electoral Commission at whatever capacity, the things we communicate out to the public must serve to empower our people. You see, it shouldn't be that some people out there would have concerns with the African National Congress to the extent that they even end up interpreting laws and rulings of the courts in the manner that would only satisfy their own imagination. I mean, last week on Friday, statements were being made consistent with the laws of the Republic in terms of the decisions of the Concord. And when the ANC said it welcomes the decisions of the court, the ANC did speak about elections being free and fair. We said we're aware that the conditions created by COVID-19 would have disempowered our people, especially political parties that are used to visiting homes, doing door-to-doors when they campaign, holding bigger meetings like rallies, to be able to run an effective campaign. So when we spoke and raised this point, it was not necessarily just for the African National Congress. We joined the application of the IEC, and the matters that we're really addressing there had to do with elections being free and fair. We are now happy and comforted by the fact that with the opening of the voters' roll, I mean, the president of the African National Congress, in his closing remarks to our Lekgotla, hinted that point, that everyone who is legible to vote is also legible to be voted for. So, for instance, Shahan, you cannot stand to be a ward councillor when you yourself do not appear on the voters' roll and in that specific ward where you have raised your hand to be elected. These are just really simple things that have got to do with the relevant electoral laws guiding and governing how we've got to run into these things. But also, it is not just the African National Congress. The ANC does not contest elections alone. There are many other political parties that are contesting these elections, and in their majority will have welcomed the recommendations of the IEC. So that an impression out there is not created that the only party that seeks to really enjoy whatever has been advanced here is the ANC. No, all other parties, the DA, if they want to do corrections, I mean, I'm sure that there are new voters who might not have registered during that registration weekend who could be voting for DA. They stand to really benefit out of this, the EFF and all other political parties that have registered candidates to be able to participate in this. You see, true democracy is when we will have elections where all parties have contested openly, transparently, and without others being left out so that others could win through the back door. If we are Democrats and want to work to safeguard our democracy, let's go to the polls. Let us contest fairly. Let's make sure that everyone who's eligible in this country who might have missed their chance to register, both as candidates or as voters, are on the voters' roll. Because conditions that we find ourselves in were created by COVID-19. They were not created by the African National Congress.
Okay.
And people have lost their jobs. There's quite a number of strains that our own economy has suffered because of COVID-19.
Okay. Did you know anything about the outcome of this decision? Because you were very vocal about you taking the IEC to the Electoral Court to try to force it to reopen the process. And then last week, suddenly, before the Court actually made its announcements, you said that we were going to drop the matter. So lots of people are wondering, is it pure coincidence? What was your strategy when you decided to drop this matter?
Well, Shahan, I think I must have spoken to some of your colleagues clarifying the position of the African National Congress last. When the ANC took a decision to withdraw its application from the Electoral Court, it did explain its reasons. It said that the reasons that we're advancing on our application to the Electoral Court were very much similar to the reasons that we had advanced when we joined the application of the IEC at the Apex Court. So it was only fair for us to await the outcomes of the Concord so that we could then be able to then determine the next course of action. This we have said openly out to the public. What worried us was when you had leaders of other political parties coming out, attacking the integrity and credibility of judges, which is quite unfair. I mean, whatever political statements we make, we must leave the courts of the land out of those. Let's go and battle it out. Let's go and battle it out now. I mean, the playing field has been leveled. Let's go out there. Let's see who the people of South Africa will be able to affirm to occupy the seat of government in the various wards and in the various municipalities, not through backdoor, through a proper, straightforward, democratic process that is open to all. The reason why people were hoping and wishing on some backdoor process was because they know quite well that they are not quite ready for these elections. The ANC has been ready. We've actually been performing well, even at the by-elections. We have even won wards that we did not govern in the past. Because we've been doing work in communities. We've been going out there to talk about the protection of lives, safeguarding livelihoods, and all of that. And because this positive message of the African National Congress now sit and rest well with the people of South Africa, especially because the ANC has said it is going to be driving a renewal trajectory, and that the renewal trajectory that it drives is one that is going to make sure that it deal with all misdemeanors that begins to undermine the confidence that the public have in the African National Congress.
All right, Pule, just try to keep your answers a bit shorter for me. I don't have that much time tonight. So now that the candidates' registration is going to be reopened, the ANC, of course, still has another hurdle to cross, and that's the widespread unhappiness, right, about the alleged manipulation of candidate lists, some preferred by branches and communities removed. How are you going to handle that one?
Well, there's going to be consequence management here. Should we discover well within this shorter period that there are those of our comrades who might have gone against the will or wishes of communities, action will be taken. The ANC is quite serious about all of this because it is this misdemeanors done sometimes by cadres on the ground that undermine the confidence that communities have placed in the African National Congress, because the processes that the ANC undertakes are quite participatory, democratic, and open to communities. The ANC we don't ask for people to make up job applications. No, we go through a thorough process in our BGMs, we go to community meetings. Even after that, we've got to make sure that our own panel that deals with the vetting also gets into the process to make sure that those that are nominated to become ward councillors feed into the criterion set out by the African National Congress. They've got the relevant qualifications. They understand what ought to be done at the level where they are expected to be leading, because the development of our people in this country takes place in local communities where they live. Now, it is that layer of government that the ANC has now said, in building an ethical developmental state, we shall also place more energy on this layer of government.
Now, let's talk about another issue that the ANC is facing, which you've also spoken about on this channel. But today we saw more workers picket outside Luthuli House. The ANC's top six apparently going to meet with worker representatives tomorrow. Does this mean that the party is now in a position to pay salaries?
Well, of course, I mean, where there are interventions that the party is making to deal with the plight of the workers, hardworking workers, who even under these difficult conditions have not turned their back on the African National Congress. Such will be explained through their representatives on what is being done. But I can tell you, Shahan, we are doing everything else we can in our power to deal with the situation. The Treasurer General has used the occasion of the Special National Executive Committee to be able to brief the National Executive Committee more broadly on the kind of a situation we sit in, what has been the impact of COVID on our ability to mobilize resources and be able to execute our own activities.
Tell me this. Do you get your salary? Does Jesse Jawati get her salary? Does Paul Mashatile get his salary? Are you guys still waiting?
Well, when they say employees of the ANC have not been paid, I'm counted in there, Shahan. You are making me to do night shift here, and yet you know my problems.
Now, carry on. So you're saying the top six as well did not get their salaries. It's not just some staff members.
Yes, well, just to assist, in terms of who are full-time officials, the SGO, the Secretary General, the Deputy Secretary General, the Treasurer General, these are the three full-time officials who are based at our headquarters in Luthuli House. And then you have got the national spokesperson, you have got the head of organizing, Comrade Nomvula. You have got the deputy chair of organizing, Comrade Dakota Lehuete. You have got Comrade Malusi Gigaba. You have got Comrade Batabile Dlamini. And then you have got the secretaries of the leagues, Comrade Mioho, Secretary General of the ANC Women's League. And you have got the component of the ANC Youth League in the form of the coordinator of the NYTT, the spokesperson of the ANC Youth League. Those would be your full-time political manpower there. And then supported, of course, by an able team of cadres in our organizing division, in finance, in HR, in transport, in DIP, which is the Department of Information and Publicity, in the Secretary General's office, because the DSG now has got to make sure that there's coordination of the NWC, NECs could be able to sit, attend to matters of local government elections. So we have taken a view that while we sympathize and understand the plight of the workers of the African National Congress, we in the leadership will have to then make sure that we keep the fires on. We have got to make sure that we allow the organization to run. And we do commend those of the employees of the African National Congress who always make sure that even under these conditions, they are still available. The general manager, the Comrade Phoebe Potgieter, Comrade Andrew Snell, who coordinates the NWC, and many others.
Pule, I'm not asking you for names of people who are willing to work for the organization. I asked you whether these people are getting paid. So you've listed a whole lot of people. Are they getting their salaries or not?
No, but Shahan, I clarified to you. Then you are going to say my answers are low.
Yes, you just gave me a long answer, but you didn't answer the question.
No, but because you are asking questions that require comprehension. You see, you said to me, Pule, are you getting your salary? Is the TSG getting paid? So to remove doubt out there, because by the way, Shahan, it's not for the first time that this question is being asked. So we better place it on record so that it is not dealt with as if it is some leaked information out there. Because at one point, the accusation was that we in the leadership are being paid, and yet ordinary staffers at headquarters are not being paid. And I did clarify that point, that it is not possible, because the people who administrate payroll would be those in the employ of the African National Congress. They will be the first ones to know if there were monies that came to us.
Okay, so can you go on an election campaign? Do you have money for that to happen?
Well, I can tell you now that as it relates to elections, how we're going to campaign and all of that, internally, we have got plans and we'll be able to make sure that we brief our employees, including the rest of our structures, on the work that we are doing. We are supposed to be convening our own workshops to deal with all of those matters.
So what are you saying? You have money to campaign, but you don't have money to pay staff?
Well, I said to you that where there are matters of HR and we need to give updates to staff in terms of the work that the TGO is doing together with officials, such will be addressed with members of staff. I know that the strike by staff would have been out there in the public. We are aware of that. We understand the plight of our employees there and are doing everything else possible through the Treasurer General's office to find a permanent solution.
You're still not answering the question. I know that you say that staff will be addressed on the matter, but I would be pretty peeved off as an employee to find out that my company has money to go on massive marketing campaigns, but they're unable to pay my salary. That's what it boils down
to. You must also, but you must also remember that we're not talking about general elections here, Shahan. We're talking about municipal elections. People are campaigning in communities, in their own wards. Cadres are in a position to mobilize resources where they live. They could be supported by taxi owners, people who own spaza shops, and all of that. So we should not conflate issues. These elections that we're talking about are happening in communities, and our own structures in communities have got the ability and capacity to do their work. We are now talking about matters that involve the ANC at national level.
Hi, okay, Pule. Thanks so much for your time. Appreciate it.